We're here today with Canton City Treasurer Kim Perez, and what prompted my request to interview Treasurer Perez was a press release that his office put out on the 15th of August regarding a change that he's going to be making as treasurer on how the city of Canton conducts its tax collecting operation in conjunction and in coordination with business that City of Canton does with independent contractors. But first, before we get to that, and that's where we'll end up, Kim Perez has been a government and political figure in Stark County going back quite a few years. How far, Kim?
I probably started running in 85 or 83, and I was elected, I think, my first year is 88.
And what office was that?
First ward councilman in the city of Canton.
Okay, that's the one. Is that the same ward that Councilman Hawk has, or is it different?
Well, actually, it was downtown Canton. It included downtown Canton. I was on the DCA, Downtown Canton Association. I was part of the group that created Canton Tomorrow. I was involved in a lot of things with the downtown area in my first term in office.
Now, were you just exclusively a council person, or did you have a job out in the private sector?
I worked at Republic Steel. I was a transportation supervisor. I started off in the ranks, and I moved up to transportation supervisor. And in 1994, I got appointed to city auditor. I won by one vote by the precinct committeeman over Don Kasser, as a matter of fact, and that was, that was in 1994, and then 2004 I ran for county auditor, and I became the county auditor, and then I lost re-election when most Democrats lost, and there was other conflicting things in the treasurer's office in the county at the time, but I was a county auditor. I just want to point out the county auditor does not audit the county treasurer.
Okay.
That would be the state auditor that's supposed to be doing that.
Okay, well, maybe we'll touch on that just a little later, but I want to go back to your start as a council person. How long were you a council person for City of Canton?
I was a council person for 6.5 years.
Mm-hmm. And during that time, what is the most memorable thing that occurred in Canton City government from your perspective as a council person?
Oh, gosh. There's a lot of things back then. Downtown was starting to see it was starting to get ugly, and we needed to make the changes, and we went after the bar owners to start making the bar owners be responsible for their clientele, try to get a different image of the downtown. And as you can see, the downtown area today is tremendously improved over those days.
Okay, and so that the effort to stop the slide of Canton into decay and deterioration was the most memorable thing. Is that a fair way to characterize it?
That would be one of them. I mean, there was, when I got into council, I was like, you call the Young Turks today.
Right.
That's back in the days where there's another group of Young Turks that, kind of you buck the system. You buck it because you just want to see change, or at least try something different. And that's why I look at the young, who you call the Young Turks today, and I look at them and I see a lot of myself in them from back then, because you have to make waves sometimes in order to be able to create change and try to look at things a little differently than it's always been looked at.
Were you the only Young Turk at that time, or were there
actually, others? Bill Smuckler went in the term before me. Mary Sorelli went in the term before me. I ran the term before. There was a handful of us that started our careers back in those days.
And you see that collection of council persons as being difference makers for the city of Canton?
I think we all had impact one way or another in the city of Canton on making some changes and doing some things that were, different from the people prior to us. So to me, if you're elected official, the day that you think that you've done all you can do is the day you become stagnant. And when you become stagnant, you're not helping your citizens or yourself or anybody grow. So the day that I see myself grow stagnant is probably the day that I will retire.
Well, let's fast forward to 1994 is when you got in the contest to become Canton City Auditor, correct?
Correct.
And what was the circumstance of a vacancy?
Mr. Mallon passed away. He was the city auditor. He passed away. I was still at Republic Steel. The precinct committeemen met Thursday night, Hall of Fame week, downtown Canton, and it was in City Hall, City Council chambers. You couldn't pick a worse spot at a worse time to try to get everybody downtown to have a vote. So that's where they picked. That's where they had the meeting.
Who was chairman at that time?
Roy Gutierrez.
Okay.
They had the meeting then, and there was 44 people showed up. So there was probably 7-8 people running at the time. When it got down to the final two, it was a 22 to 22 vote. I believe it's 22, or we didn't finish voting. But someone came in, he had oxygen. He was carrying oxygen. He had to park like 3 blocks away. It took him like 20 minutes to get up to City Hall to come in. He walked in. I remember Warren Bertram was on Don Kasser's team at the time, and Warren says Manny Taveras was his name. Manny came in. He says, "Let's let Manny vote." And everybody on my team looked to say, "Do you want to let?" Yeah, you're precinct committee, you're representing the party. Let's let everybody vote. I ended up winning that vote by 23-22 vote. And I know that the newspaper at the time had pictures of Don and his wife. They already had their story written. They were gone when the final vote came, and they were looking for me, but I was nowhere to be found at that time. So
was the wisdom going in that was it Kassar was?
Oh yeah, I mean everybody was pretty much sure that that's who had that race at the time, and it's I don't know how anything works. I know that I took the time to go visit everybody. I talked to everybody. I was with Manny Taveras the night before. Peel Coleman and I went out and visited Manny, and we talked to him, and I kind of had the feeling from talking with Manny that he was going to support me.
Okay, so Kim Perez becomes Canton City Auditor. Mm-hmm. And were there any changes, or it was just get an acquainted time when you took office?
Oh no, I don't sit quietly for a very long time. I walk in, I observe, and then that's when the steel mills were switching over to computers. I was a supervisor. I had to switch over to computers. I know what the fight was because I was one of the ones that put up the fight. I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. But they said they put the computer on your desk and they say, listen, you explain to your guys why they're not getting paid if you don't put their time in this computer and break out. So something used to take me an hour and 10-15 minutes ended up taking me 10 minutes to do a day. And it was from that moment on that I just married technology, because I was one of the naysayers, and when that technology hit and I saw how quick things changed and how more efficient it became, I brought those type of beliefs into the auditor's office. We were still doing ledgers, so we didn't have spreadsheets. We were still running dump terminals. So in 1994 we started looking at upgrading. We got spreadsheets, we got PCs. We changed so much in that day. I went through the Y2K. We bought new software, brought a new fiscal system in, new payroll system. We combined the payroll departments. There was 2 of them in the city of Canton at the time. There was one in HR and there was one in the city. We combined those. We ended up saving jobs that way. With the technology and combining of the jobs and stuff, we ended up through attrition and everything being able to lower our costs to save the taxpayers money and be able to do what we needed to do to become more modern. And we were behind in audits when I took office. We got caught up on 3 years audits. We started doing our CAFR reports. When GASB 34 and 35 came out, from going to all the classes that I attended, I learned of this. So We were the first major city in Ohio to complete GASB 34 and 35. That's where you had to actually go to your infrastructure, your water lines, your sewer lines, and everything, put depreciation value and everything on it. We got it done, I think it was 1 day behind Worcester. Worcester's the only one that beat us. And they had 9 CPAs.
So you had to actually go on site and look at
we had to work with the water department, sewer department, and everybody, and then evaluate our buildings. We had to put a depreciation schedule to it. We had to look at our water lines and depreciation schedule to that. So when Wall Street looked at our value of our water system or value of our sewer system or value of anything, they could look how long it was in there, what's depreciation value, and exactly what the value of that system was worth, which then helped us on improve our rating agency remarks. And we did a lot to really bring the city up into the new century and new technology.
Now, do you remember the exact date you became auditor?
It was in August, Hall of Fame week.
Of 1994.
Yep, okay. First week of August.
Okay, and you remained auditor until?
Until I took office December 2004. I took office, Brant Luther, I ran against him.
Who is now the chief administrator for the Stark County Commissioners.
Correct. He was appointed by the Republican Party to fill Janet Creighton's shoe when she became mayor.
Canton.
I ran against him. I won as soon as they certified the election. It was like December 20th or something. I became then the county auditor.
That was somewhat of a surprise too. You defeating
my whole life's been surprises.
It was a pretty decent margin, as I recall too.
I don't know if it's a decent margin. I know that it was a hard-fought battle, and I know the city of Canton really came out to vote. And I mean, we both worked hard. Brant worked hard, my team worked hard, and you know, it was just one of those years where, like when I lost was one of those years. It's just, you know, the storm, the perfect storm. It was the perfect storm for me at the time.
Okay, and you remained Stark County Auditor until 2010, is that right?
Yeah, 2000. I don't know what's this. 14. Yeah, 10.
Right.
I think I left office.
Was
April of 11 is when I left office.
April 11th of 2011.
I mean,
probably.
April of 2011 is when I left office.
Right, because treasurer and the auditor have different terms than other county officers.
Yeah, because usually you're in the middle of an audit, and at the beginning of year end is the worst time for a treasurer and auditor to come in, because you got to turn your books, you close out the year, you got to start the new year up, you got to get the new POs. I mean, there's just so much work to do.
Okay.
And then the county auditor inherits everything. Anything that the state didn't know what to do with, they gave to the county auditor.
Probably with no funding too.
Yeah, I mean, you had vendor's license, cigarette license, you did it all.
Well, and we're not going to get into the difficulties of those years. We'll save that for a later interview. But just on the positive side, what would you say was your major achievement as Stark County Auditor?
I think there's two. I think the one was we had 22 different applications running on the old IBM computers, and we switched everything over. We rewrote pretty much the whole county IT department. We brought in PCs, we virtualized, we went from 22 servers to 6 servers. We completely redid the way the county operates the IT department. And I think when you look at technology and the monies it can save you, I think that was the best money spent, best bang for the buck, because that allowed the other departments then to be able to start doing things within their own departments that could make their life easier too. I think technology really drives the savings of cost. The GIS, we expanded GIS to where it was when I left. We got awards. Last 2 or 3 years I was there, we had the awards from OGRIP on being an aggressive GIS county. We did the flyovers. We can actually sit in the office and measure the house off of a photograph that they've taken.
and be able to determine the square footage in that house. We took the neighborhoods and we broke them into 900 neighborhoods. So under the old way, and I think the current way, I think the way they do their appraisals is they go, the state of Ohio says this taxing district, which would be Jackson Township, this taxing district needs to come up 11%. Well, they could just take an average of 11% and put it on every house there. We went to that extra mile to make sure that we broke it down into the neighborhoods. So because if across the street they were building $500,000 houses, and this side of the street you have a $100,000 house, we made sure that the $100,000 house was only paying on a $100,000 house, and the $500,000 house was paying on their $500,000 house. The other way, when you just did a flat above board, and you'd look at it and you could adjust a few of the areas. I mean, to me, it's not the fairest or the best way to do mass appraisals. I think you have to look at the neighborhoods. You got to make boundaries, and you have to do by the quality of the houses in those neighborhoods.
So you think the Kim Perez administered Stark County Auditor's Office deserves credit for creating the base for the current Auditor's Office to expand and improve its technical operations?
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. From where we were to when I left, they wouldn't even be close to doing what they're doing today without that base. I mean, I brought an IT director in that worked for me in the city of Canton, Anita Henderson, and we really changed the whole outlook of the IT department in Stark County.
Well, and Anita's still there,
yes,
and she's recognized as one of the leading technical people in Stark County as far as government computer operations are concerned.
Yes, she helped when I was in the city auditor's office, Y2K. She was the one that worked with me on the whole SCT banner HR system to help bring it up and make sure that everything went smoothly. We actually were the first to do an integrated system between the timekeeper, Kronos timekeeping, and banner to integrate it, so we didn't have to hand enter all those punches into a different system. We built the integration into the new payroll system, and everything just flowed like it was supposed to.
Okay. All right. Well, Kim Perez loses as county auditor in the November 2010 election, and of course everybody, including the Stark County Political Report, was, well, what's next for Kim Perez on the political side in terms of running for an office, and it wasn't too long until you were running for Canton City Treasurer, correct?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that loss, it wakens you up. Because there's nothing I could do.
Let's just backtrack. Were you surprised in losing under the circumstances?
No. I mean, the handwriting was pretty much on the wall. Mm-hmm. And if you talk about the stars aligning, they aligned. I mean, that loss was coming, and there was nothing and not enough money for me to spend to even override that loss.
There are limits to having campaign funds, right?
Yes, and you couldn't have enough, I don't think, in my opinion, to change just the whole. I mean, there was only one Democrat that won that year, and that was Burnaby, and he didn't even, out of a three-man race, he didn't get 50% of the vote. Right.
I, in fact, have written blogs that had not the third candidate run, Tom Burnaby would not be Stark County Commissioner.
And I have the highest regards for Tom. I know his work ethics. I know his ability to cut through the red tape and just be able to get work done. And, I mean, that was a shock. So when you look at that whole year and you look what happened, I mean, you lost Rich Cordray, who, to me, I look at Rich Cordray, I mean, Ohio is fortunate. I mean, Rich he's a presidential material. He's got the brains and everything. And, when you lose...
He was a Jeopardy champ, right?
Yes. I think he was 3-time Jeopardy champ. He also, I mean,
as the Attorney General. He worked hard on the foreclosures. We worked with him. We worked hard on trying to get people to either save their houses or be able to renegotiate with the banks. So Rich was a very much a people person. He was very bright, intelligent, but he still was down to earth to be able to understand the problems that people were having, and he took the lead on all that. And I just look at that election and see someone like that losing. It just, hey, it's the way the system's built.
So it was 2013 before you decided to run for office again?
Yeah, I did not even know Mr. Chirac was going to retire. I heard rumors of it, but I've heard rumors of it before, so did not know. Finally, when he announced he was going to run, talked to my family, talked to my friends, and said, I've been the auditor. I've been the auditor on both sides. I go to enough classes. I understand the treasurer's office very well. I think it was just a natural move for me to at least take it. And believe me, I didn't take that race lightly. I went out and knocked on doors. I did everything that you're supposed to do in a campaign, because there's nothing. I think Scott Gwynn quoted one time to me, he says there's two ways to run a race, either scared or unopposed. So I took the scared issue. I mean, Mary Shirley is a strong name. Mary, I've known Mary forever.
Former ally of yours on council.
Yes.
Did that bother you at all?
I don't think politics should be personal. And I think that's where we're at today. Politics have become personal. It used to be Dick Watkins and I could agree to disagree and still go out and have a beer afterwards. Today, it's not like that. It's like anger. I mean, I think I look at Congress and look at the anger there, and I'm saying, you guys got to be able to agree to disagree and then go back and talk it over and look for something. I just think that this hate or this new type of politics is not good for anybody. It's not good for the country. It's not good for the cities. It's not good for anybody. But if you're going to take your ball and go home all the time after you lose, I mean, there's a problem with the way politics is working today, and I'm definitely not a fan of it.
Well, let me just point out during this part of the conversation that over the nearly 7 years now of my blog, I've talked to many Republicans, and we get their observations about various Democrats and vice versa. I have to say that from the Republican side, I have never had any criticism from the partisan opposition. So that was kind of a revelation to me that Kim Perez seemed to be well liked, even by people of the opposing political party.
I think when you're running for office, you run for office. When you're in office, you work for everybody. So Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever, your votes and everything should not be for political reasons. It should be actually for the betterment of the city of Canton, or the betterment for Stark County, or whatever office you're running for, or whatever jurisdiction you're in. You should never lose that sight that you're there to represent the people who elected you, and there's both spectrums on everything, and you got to work with everybody. You got to bring people to the middle. You got to try to make things happen, because if you don't, you have total chaos, and that's not good for anyone.
Okay, well, Kim Perez gets elected Canton City Treasurer in November of 2013, and you're in office.
December 2nd, we took office.
Okay, and you're starting to make waves. I've already pointed out, maybe you don't think it was a wave, but you stood up at Canton City Council meeting and wanted to know where they are. Where are the state legislators to help the urban areas like Canton out of its financial bind? Because after all, the state of Ohio pretty much put local urban areas, at least, in a financial bind, right?
Yeah, it's not even us. It's the libraries, it's the schools, it's the governments, it's everybody. Undivided Local Government Fund was, from my understanding, when Gilligan put on an income tax, there was a promise of that money coming back to the governments to help them.
And when that money disappears, and they already took the inheritance tax and lowered it down, they took the personal property taxes, eliminated it, and they brought something in called the CAT tax, commercial activity tax. And when I was sitting in these classes, the guy from the state of Ohio even said, we don't see commercial activity tax completely replacing the capital tax, but they were looking at the good times when they said that, and they said that. So imagine after the crash happened, how that commercial activity tax didn't even come close to what they were projecting. So you add all that on top of taking away undivided local government fund, I don't care what business you own, you remove that capital, and Canton's paying for it. I mean, our street department. I mean, everybody talks about police and fire. We know where we're at on that. We're outnumbered. I mean, we need to get our police and fire to a number that can take care of the amount of calls they get. But street department, I mean, look at the chuck holes this year. It's been cut so thin that you don't have enough people just to do the day-to-day chores that needs to be done. And when you have to pull all them off to fix the chuck holes, more and more stuff goes back. Capital improvement. We have buildings in the city of Canton that needs roofs, needs things done. We are the caregivers. I mean, we take care of city's properties, and the buildings are part of what the taxpayers own, and we need to make sure that we fix them. Take this office, for example. There's Water Lakes. They finally put a roof on it, 2 years ago, I believe. Warren Price finally started putting the capital money into place in order to start replacing the bad roofs in the Water Lake. When you're at home and if your roof leaks, I bet you get it fixed, because the damage on the inside from neglect, well, that's what we're not doing in the city. That's some things that we have to do. We got to quit spending all our capital money just to try to stay afloat on everything else.
And capital money is getting transferred into operations, correct?
Absolutely. And by law it can't, because if you're working on a capital, you can pay them out of capital.
Right. But it's just not a wise thing to do.
Well, it's sometimes you have to do, but sometimes you have to put a plan in place and budget the roofs. If I have a roof leak today and it's cost me $400,000 to fix it, if I leave it go for a year or two, that cost will accelerate to $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 to fix it, with the damage it's creating on where you can't see, where your trusses are, and everything else. So I just think that we need to completely evaluate the city, and I know I'm the treasurer, and I know my job is to bring the money in, but I also believe I'm still a steward of the taxpayers. And if I see something that I don't think's right, I think if we have problems, we need to fix those problems. I think we need to get our buildings back in shape. I think there's a lot of things that we really need to do and with that undivided local government money gone and us taking more out of the capital fund, they have done nothing but made us switch the costs and the cost centers and put them over here. Now those things are suffering. So I think our state legislators are doing what made their life easy to balance their budget. And now they get a campaign on, I didn't raise your taxes. But actually, when you look at the whole thing, how many school levies are out there? How many library levies are out there? How many park levies are out there? How many levies have you really passed on to the local in order to pick up the loss that they've given you, handed you down? A lot of those levies would have not been there if they wouldn't have done this undivided local government fund. So when it's a disguise, it's like the shell game, here's your money here and here's how it goes. And I just think it's really important for the public to understand that they didn't do you any favor. They're not doing us any favor. All they're doing is driving those costs down on the local level, and then they're taking that money and get to do their projects. I think charter schools is one project they're doing, which, you know what, Catholic schools don't get extra money from the government. I think if you want a competition, you make it a competition, but you don't take public schools and take the money away to create a charter school that doesn't even live under the same rules. I think what they're doing with their money and with our money and how they're charging us is really not good for our citizens.
Now, is Kim Perez a native of Canton?
I'm native of Stark County.
Okay. So,
Since I got married I bought a house in Canton at the age of 19.
okay.
All three of my kids graduated from Canton McKinley. I got 7 grandkids now, so it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, but you currently live in Canton?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And some people say that you have aspirations to be the mayor of Canton, and it sounds to me like there's a kind of an evangelistic tone about you, that maybe Kim Perez is the person that wants to bring Canton back to some semblance of its former glory.
I never woke up from one day to the next wanting to be anything. I never knew I was going to be auditor. I never knew I was going to be treasurer. I never knew I was going to be county auditor. People approach, people talk to you. There's problems out there. There's trust issues. There's a lot of things going on in Canton. And I don't know if I'm the person that's going to run, or someone else is going to run, or if the mayor is going to stay. I have no idea what the cards are.
Okay, but you're not ruling that out.
I'm not ruling anything out. All I'm saying is I'm looking at everything. I'm looking to see who's out there. Canton needs to move forward, and we need to get a working relationship built. And I think council needs to build a working relationship. And I talked to Mario the other day, and I said,
Councilman Mario,
yes.
Ward 7.
And I told him, I said, John, I think one of the things that we really should do is get the elected officials in a room, and Republic Steel, as a management, you had to do this with your men. You put up those boards and you give everybody, okay, what do you think are top 10 complaints in the city? And you go around, you write them all on those boards. You combine the ones that are the same. Then you sit down and all you guys get 5 votes. You can put all 5 of your votes on one thing, or you can put 2 here, 1 here, 1 here. But you need to get something that puts everybody on the same page and everybody has the same input. So when you finally add up to find out what your top 3 problems are based upon council's opinions and administration and everybody, then you could actually see where everybody agrees. Okay, if I got 20 votes on police, 20 votes on fire, and I have 20 votes on streets, and I have 10 votes, 5 votes, then as a administration council works together, they should work towards the common goal of those higher ones. And I think as you eliminate those things, then you redo the process until we actually start seeing those improvements that we're really looking for, that everybody can agree on, and then we can attack the funding issues to deal with them.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kim, for running through your political and government history. Now let's get to the topic that brought me here today. And this was a press release that was sent out by your office on August the 15th. And the headline is a catchy one: Canton will not do business with tax delinquents. Explain yourself, City Treasurer Kim Perez.
Well, it was actually a fluke. Someone brought me a list of some top delinquents, and I happened to look at that list, and I says, wow, they're doing demolition work with us currently. How can they be doing demolition work with the city of Canton and be delinquent in taxes? So then the more we dug into it and the more we saw, we said, this is not just unique to one person. This is actually a problem. So what we did is sat down with the law department, purchasing department, and we went through, 6 weeks. It took us about 6 weeks to really iron out what we were going to do and how we were going to deal with it. This ordinance basically just deals with the contractual part of it, the people that contract for $15,000 more or $20,000 more worth of services, that they cannot get a contract with the city of Canton unless we sign off on it that they're either current with us or they have an agreement with us to pay off their debt, or they're filed and they're in good standings with us. And the reason we're doing that is because everybody wants to raise revenue, and we're taxing the people that don't work in the city anymore. We're taking away their credits, and it's my office is catching the heck. We're the ones that have to send out the letter saying, that that 2% last year doesn't apply this year. It's 1.7 credit. You still owe us 0.3%. We go up to Akron. They working in Akron. They're paying 2.25. Now they're paying 2.55 in city taxes between Akron and Canton. And they're still invested in the city of Canton. They spend their money here. If their kids go to school here, the schools get the money for the kids from the state. I mean, they've invested. Some people just can't help. They can't find a job here. They had to go to Akron.
Yeah, let me interrupt you here if I may. I think you've kind of gotten off onto a little bit of another issue. Can you give viewers a little bit of background? You went to council, I believe, and made a recommendation that a change take place on the amount of money that was it non-residents?
Well, it's actually residents that live in the city but work in a different city. They used to get a full 2% credit.
Okay.
Well, if you work in the city of Akron or in Massillon or which other ones, Mike? Do you?
Green, Louisville, Alliance.
Okay.
Then you're being
person
punished.
That we just heard there from was Mike McEnany, and you are Chief Deputy? Okay, let me just get a picture shot of you here, and so you'll be piping in from time to time as we go through this, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And by the way, Mike has over 27 years experience in the city income tax department. And when I came in, I promoted him to chief deputy. I've known Mike. He actually ran a campaign against me when I lost one of my when I ran for council.
I see.
He actually worked for Sam Slyman. So that shows you I'm not that type of politician where I hate you forever. We had a good race. I lost. I won on election day, but I lost in absentee ballots.
Well, just we'll point out, Stark County Political Report has written a number of critical blogs about Kim Perez, but here we sit in Kim Perez's office. So,
you know, it is what it is. I'm not gonna. You know that old saying: you don't argue people by their ink by the barrel.
Right.
In your case, it's a film. But no, just to get back to that, I think what we did was we got the complaints. We were getting the complaints, and I started really looking at it. I said, wow, this just doesn't seem right. So to me, it was more of a philosophy difference. And that's why I'm getting so aggressive on going after the taxes owed to the city, because I think we need to do every effort possible. We also have an ordinance to be able to hire a law firm that specializes in collections out of Cleveland. They have gotten their first batch to go after that we can't find, or they've been delinquent for years, or they just avoided the court system, or they avoided coming in to see us.
So you're looking for results.
So
right?
We're looking for results, and we're turning all the stones in order to try to collect the money that's owed. Because why should anybody else have to pay more when we still haven't turned all the stones to get what we are owed?
But the council did change the law in Canton to go to 2% full credit.
No, council approved it and the mayor vetoed it.
Veto, that's right.
So right now it's vetoed. That means we'd have to get one more council person to switch their vote in order for us to override the veto.
And this could become a campaign issue in 2015.
You know, I'm thinking that no matter what, it's a campaign issue, no matter who's running, because once again, I'm the one who's getting the complaints from the people that's paying it. And we had a lady down at council just last Monday night that called here and was blaming us, and we explained what happened, and then she went down to council and she spoke on Monday night. So we're letting people know that if you're against this, or if you think this is an unfair burden to you, then you need to go to council and you need to speak down at council so they understand what this is doing to your family.
So this particular project that you have going with Canton not doing business with tax delinquents, how much could that net Canton? Do you have any rough estimate on what that might mean? What is owing that this is leverage to collect on, right?
Well, I think
just one individual, and I can't say names or anything because of tax law, privacy law,
Right.
but one individual, we got one company we got over 30,000 from. So it's substantial. It's
certainly worth the effort.
It's definitely worth the effort. Especially we had 2 interns in here to go through 5,000 names to be able to send the ones up to Cleveland and be able to garnish the ones that we can do garnish here. We're working with the law department hand in hand. Joe Martuccio, Rachel Oman that works for the law department. She actually is in our office 2.5 days. The law department's 100% behind working with this. I think we're really starting to get a message out there. You know what? If you're in a tax problem, you need to come talk to us. By law, individually, I can waive interest and penalties. I can't waive your tax, but I can waive interest and penalties up to $15,000. Anything over $15,000 would have to go to the tax appeals board. But we're looking at your hardship cases. I was laid off in 1980. I went through 20 and a half months of layoffs. I understand what that's about when you have little kids and you're laid off and you're just barely surviving to keep your house and stuff. I get it. But you need to come in. You need to come see us. Same with the contractors. If you got problems out there, we don't want to run you out of business, but if you want to do business with us, you need to get squared up. You need to get on payment plan. You need to make your payments. You need to do what you need to do. Any new contractors, they need to come in before they get a contract and sign up with us so we know that they're actually doing contractual work for the city of Canton and they owe us money. We're making them give us their, whoever their subs are. So if I'm a demo person and I'm subbing out all the demolition work, I'm just the paper guy, I know that I need to go after this subcontractor in order to get my taxes for those guys that are working in the city of Canton doing that demo work. We're talking millions of dollars we're spending lately in demolitions, and that's a substantial amount of money to the city of Canton. So I think we need to do that. When the new system's up, we're actually going to go to the PO level. When we cut a PO for services, we can't do it now, but when the new system, we're actually going to be in the workflow. The treasurer's office will be part of the workflow. When the department head signs off, it'll flow over to the treasurer's office. We will check to make sure they're current. If they're not current, we don't do business with them. So if you want to be a businessman doing business, getting City of Canton money, then you need to be current, and I think it's only fair to the rest of the taxpayers in the City of Canton to make sure we enforce those rules.
What do you think the time frame is for it becoming very clear to people, companies that do business in the City of Canton, that don't even go there and ask unless you're up on your taxes? How long do you think it's going to take to really take hold?
I think it's going to take us another year from now to really have a good idea of what it was and who it is and how we get it. We get this one gone, then the first year when the new finance system's up and we get in that rotation, we go to the PO level. I think we'll be surprised that even at that lower level, the contracts under $15,000 or $20,000 for services, I think we'll be surprised in what we find there too. I think a lot of people just aren't registered. They don't even know they have to register. So we want to do education. We want to go talk to the JCs. We want to talk to the businessmen. We want to talk to the chambers. We want to talk to the business and then educate them. Say, hey, you know what? When you do work in the City of Canton, this is your liability. This is what you got to do. So when you bid your work, come see us or you won't get the bid.
Is there anything else that I haven't touched upon on this particular topic that you want people of Canton and Stark County to know?
Well, I think overall, I mean, we have a computer system now that's aged. The city redid it in 1998 from the mainframe computers to a PC environment. It was done in-house. We have gotten council's permission to go out and contract for a new system. And the difference between technology way back prior to Y2K and today has grown so much. We have workflow process that'll actually, once we're up and running, it'll track. It's called the tracker. It'll track, send the letters, and do everything. It won't be human error anymore, forgetting to send a letter or doing anything. It'll be more or less the The computer will say, okay, this person was supposed to file, they didn't, they generate a letter, it gets sent. So there's no more room for human error with this new system we're purchasing. We're going to automate it. We're going to build a new website, one that's more. We had a lot of problems with our website because it once again was built in-house, and it would crash, and sometimes you could post two payments on a credit card. So we're going to work on a new website when we bring that up too. So I think in another year and a half or a year from now, you're going to see a more efficient, definitely a more efficient income tax department. We're going to bring the treasurer's office out of City Hall down here, and that'll be with the new technology. So we're looking at sometime in July to December of next year, bringing the treasurer's system down here. We can't do it currently because the old technology, we still have a tube that runs between the floors, between the auditor's office.
And down here is 424 North Market.
Yes, 424 North Market. So we won't need that tube anymore. Everything will be electronic signature. We can send it for the approvals. And I just think where we're headed is going to bring, it'll be a money savings to the city in future years. And as long as we keep current with the upgrades and make sure that we keep moving forward, I think you're going to see a lot of changes and a lot of positive things come out of this.
Okay. Is there anything that we talked about before we got to this latest topic that you want to expand on?
You know,
I'd like to give my subjects full and complete opportunity to communicate.
We got a great staff here. I mean, I'm used to going into staffs from way back in 1994 to 2004 where technology wasn't welcome. We have a staff here that embraces technology. They didn't have email and they didn't have voicemail when I came in December. They have them both now. We bought them new PCs, but Windows 7s won't operate on our old system. So I had to bring the old PCs back in order for us to continue operating. They embrace the changes. We have dual monitors. We are doing the things that make their job. My job is to give them the tools to make their job become efficient. And what I'm doing is observing what they're doing, looking to see what I can do to help their job become more efficient and make it easier for them so they can do more with less. And we're moving in the right direction. And I'm looking forward to the results too because I know they'll be there. I've had enough experience to know what we'll bring forward.
So Kim Perez in the Treasurer's Office should be a model of the convergence of technology and government administration.
Lord willing.
Okay. Thank you, Kim Perez, City of Canton Treasurer.
Thank you, Martin. Appreciate it.